Hey everybody, back with installment number 3, and this is going to be previous videos have had us in the browser putting the settings together. Now we're actually going to launch a meeting, which is probably what most of you are most interested in. Like, don't tell me about the settings, Ian. Tell me how I can use this thing and leverage it for my meetings or for my classes or whatever. So very simply, we're going to start out. You see my control panel. I've got 4 buttons on the control panel, and I've got new meeting, join, schedule, and then share screen. So with this, essentially what we've got is really 4 specific choices, right? I can go new meeting, which means I'm just going to start an instant meeting right now, no planned schedule. I'm just going to launch it, and I'm going to send the invite to other people to join me. Or maybe I know that I have people joining my connection at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and at about 1:45 or maybe a little later, I click on new meeting and it launches it. This is only going to work if you're always hosting your meetings with your custom URL. Join allows you, this is good for your student, join allows you to have your students actually jump into the meeting utilizing your meeting ID or personal link. They can copy and paste it from an email, or they can put in just the set of number characters on the back end of it, and it'll allow them to join. And then this block right here, obviously you see when I highlight it, it says your name right there. That's for them to put in their name. I'll show you during the session how to change their names if they put in something ridiculous or inappropriate. And then I can click do not connect to audio, which basically means I'm going to call in from my phone, and then turn off my video is what my standard feature is on almost all times. Scheduling, you can click this button and another app will pop up, and I can use the personal meeting ID, and I can schedule it for a specific time, tell people their video on or off, what type of audio. So a lot of the same settings that we went through in the custom meeting application. You can also schedule from email, from either Gmail or from your Outlook account, and I'll have another video to show how to do that. And then share screen, you'll notice there's a little caret down here, a little down caret, where I can also uncheck share computer sounds. If you're launching the meeting, you want to be able to share your computer sounds, especially if you're going to put videos or things like that on for people to watch. So make sure that that's checked. So I'm going to launch an ad hoc or impromptu instant meeting. And when I launch it, you'll notice that I've got a couple of windows that are popping up, right? The first one says, hey, you're not using the audio. Do you want to unmute yourself or continue without audio? I'm going to continue without audio because you'll notice that it's automatically recording. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And what's going to happen here now is this is your gallery view that you got in front. You'll also see behind you, or behind that, is something called the speaker view, right? And right now my microphone is off. I'm capturing this with a screen share software so you can see all the buttons and stuff that I'm pushing. But whoever is speaking will highlight on this box. I almost always shut this down, and the reason I shut it down is because it's really, really distracting. But let's say I wanted to open up my different views again. And of course, I lost them now. Click on return to meeting, and there's my gallery view. So in order for you to be able to see how all of this works, I'm actually going to join from 2 other devices real quick here. And I'm going to join using my iPad. And I'm going to mute myself there. And I'm going to join using my iPhone. And you'll notice that they both now have popped up into the gallery view. So essentially what we got here is Ian Fisher with a picture, that's me on the desktop. Ian Fisher without a picture, that's my iPad, and then Ian's iPhone is obviously the one that is on my phone. So with this, you can actually see that as I hover over it, I can unmute myself, I can unmute any other participant. So if you're the facilitator, you have the capability of unmuting, or rephrase that, requesting to unmute someone. So you can actually click the unmute button, and a message will pop up and says the host would like you to unmute your microphone, and you can either unmute or stay muted. So I'm going to hit stay muted so we don't get a bunch of background noise. But essentially what happens then is if they say yes, then they can talk. So if you wanted to call on somebody in class or pick them, one way to do that is to say, hey Ian, I wanted to ask a question, and you can click unmute, and it kind of pops up a notification on them for them to unmute themselves. So this is the gallery view, right? And what you actually have in the gallery view is all of your participants who have joined. So if you're waiting on a certain number of people or certain different attendees to show up, or one important attendee to show up, you can actually see who's in the meeting currently with you. So obviously, I don't really care too much if my phone and my iPad are in here, but I need to have them in here to be able to finish describing what's going to happen. So after I know I've got everybody in here, I can go ahead and just kick it off. I can start my video, which I won't be able to use because again I'm using the camera to do this video, so I can't turn on my camera for the Zoom application right now. But that turns on your video for you, and then unmute obviously unmutes your microphone and allows you to talk all you want. Again, same thing. I'm using the microphone on my on the screen share, the screen grab, so I can't turn it on here. Some of the things that you might want to do before you actually start the meeting, something that I do every once in a while when I move to a new location, or if it's the first time that you're doing it from your home office, is on the control panel, you'll notice that you've got a settings cog up here in the upper right hand corner. In here I can do a couple of different things, but one of the things that I like to do in a new location the first time I go there is click on video. And again, you can't see any video right now because I'm using the camera for this, but this will allow me to adjust my camera position, maybe see that there's something distracting behind me, close a door, move something off the wall that I don't want people to see, anything like that. If I'm going to use a dry erase board or something like that behind myself, I can use the camera picture here to make sure that everything is set up the way that I want it to do, so I can give a seamless presentation when it's time. And then audio, I can actually pick where the speakers, what's displaying right now I'm using the speakers from the computer, but if you have external speakers or a Bluetooth speaker or something like that, you can connect all that stuff and tell it which speaker to run. And then the microphone, same thing. You can pick which microphone. So if you have an external microphone or multiple external microphones, you can pick which one you want for your specific meeting. So run through these settings and see what you like, what you don't like, adjust some things and use those. But back into the meeting, into the gallery view. So from here, this is kind of like the master panel for everything that you're going to do. So as you're teaching, or you decide you need to share something with your students, normally, with first starting out, everybody's got the camera on, they're engaging, they're interacting, they're saying hey, and then it's time to get down to business. So you notice down here on the bottom, I've got all these different buttons. So the first one that I'm going to walk through here is the share button. So from share, I can actually pick. So I've got 3 screens and a whiteboard set up, right? So I'm gonna share. Let's say I'm gonna share screen number 3 because that's the one I'm sharing off of here. And you'll notice that a big blue line comes up and it says, "Hey, this is the screen that you're about to share." If you plan on sharing any videos or any audio clips or anything like that from your computer, you need to come down here and click Share Computer Sound, and then also Optimize for Full Screen Video Clip. When you do that, just understand that any sound that comes out of your computer, so email notifications, calendar reminders, any sound that comes out of your computer is going to be shared with your students. So it's worth considering whether you do or do not turn that on. And then you click Share. So now I'm sharing the same exact screen, right? From here, you'll notice that I have this master panel at the top now instead of down here at the bottom. And it will hide itself because I've set it up to hide itself. To get it back, all I need to do is just put my mouse up there on top of it. One of the things that you might find exceptionally useful is that as you're teaching, you want to allow students to chat in questions rather than coming off mute or say things crazy off the cuff, or maybe chat privately to you because they don't want their question heard by absolutely everyone. Over here on the More, you've got a chat capability. If you click on that, it automatically brings the chat window up. When you set this up, or when you start using this, if you have the chat window on the screen you're displaying, it will not look like it does right now for your students. Again, I'm using screen grab software, so it's not going to look like this. The people that are watching are not going to be able to see the chat. But what I can do is I can pick everyone or any of the participants to chat with privately, okay? And I can say, okay, and it pops up privately, hey, I'm chatting to Ian Fisher, which is my iPad, privately. So when I type my message, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I hit it, it pops up only on the iPad. It will not pop up for everyone. But then I can go in and I can say, okay, I want to send a message to everybody. You know, everyone, learn how to spell happy to see you. And I hit it, and it pops up on absolutely everyone's screen. And they can see my image and everything, depending on their device, of who chatted in. So that's the chat feature. Having it right here in front of your face can be very, very, very annoying. All right, so there's a couple of different things that you can do to move it, right? So, well, one of the things that I like to do is I like to just move it off to the side and, you know, make it ginormous so that I can see the chats as they pop in, and then I can answer them as necessary. If you're using a single screen, so in other words, you don't have multiple screens like I do in your office or wherever you're teaching from, that may get in the way of your slide material if you're sharing slides, or it might get in the way of your video material. So just be aware of that. Again, you're the only one that can see it, so as long as you understand and you know the material and what's coming next, you should be okay. But just in case, obviously you want to be able to keep that off to the side where it's not going to be too invasive. You can resize it as much as you want, but obviously you can only make it so small as a side banner. So just remember that as you're working through it. Or if you want to, you can close it down. And if anybody chats in, so I'm going to chat in real quick from my phone, and I'm going to say, glad to be here. And you'll notice that the notification popped up, a little orange ball popped up, and it dropped my master banner down, and I can see I have one chat. I'm like, oh, okay, Ian's iPhone is glad to be here. And you do whatever you need to. If you're talking and you're constantly looking at your screen, that popping down in your face, you might know, okay, someone just asked me a question. Sometimes you might not. So that's another way that you can get around that. Another thing you can do is you can pause the share, and you notice that now on the screen absolutely nothing is happening for any of my participants. They can only see the gallery view and they can't see the actual share. And then I can resume share, and they can now see, maybe if I can get the screen to look correctly, there we go from this one, they can see the image that's on my screen. Yep. Again, you'll notice that you can see my master panel, and they of course cannot because I have it set up that way. So if I click return to meeting, my master panel pops up. Let's say manage participants, I can see who's here, who's not here, and I can do some master work here too. When I look at this, you'll notice that I can rename. There are ways to go in and rename your students. So let's say they put something inappropriate. I know that this is not Ian Fisher. This is Ian's iPad, and I will change it. And as you look here, they don't see it, but if I go to the gallery view and I stop my share, right, it's now labeled as Ian's iPad. All right. So if I have somebody that does something, you know, inappropriate or I don't like it, I can obviously change what they're doing. I can also mute or unmute everyone. So maybe there's a bunch of people that are unmuted and they're making a mess of it. I can just click on mute all, and I can mute them all. I can also uncheck allow participants to unmute themselves. When I do that, or if I have that checked, then anytime somebody has a question, even though I've muted everybody, anytime somebody has a question, they can come off mute and ask that question aloud. If I don't, the only way they can interact with me is through the chat feature. So be careful when you mute everyone. If you want people to still be able to talk, make sure that box is checked. Okay. So now let's talk about, we're going to go back to our share, right? And we're going to share screen 3. And as we share, notice again that it pops up and it says, hey, Ian started screen sharing. If somebody's using a phone, they turn it and it'll render for the appropriate size of the device. And you notice the only thing they can see right now is my background. But let me bring up some slides real quick, and this is just a real quick slide deck that I pulled from a template gallery, and I can see the slide. So as you get to the point where you're ready to start teaching, you can pop it up and now they have the whole thing, and you click through it and it moves right along with you. Okay, I know it's hard to see because my picture is so small, but it is all showing. All right, when you're done, you can do that, and then of course stop the share. One of the really handy features of Zoom is the ability to annotate. So let me go back and unshare it a little fast. Right, as I'm sitting here, I can grab this button right here that says annotate, and again, nobody can see this other than me. You'll notice that it's not displayed anywhere in this picture on my iPad. And I can do text boxes, so I can hit the text, make something and say, you know, this is important to remember. And I can create a text box, or I can draw, and I can do different shapes, or I can do different stamps. Right, so, oh, I love that. That's great. That's wonderful, right? Or I can freehand draw, and it'll show everything that I do is now showing on my student's screen, right? I can then clear that. If I don't clear it, I want to show you real quick what happens if I then start, click mouse again, I start sharing my slides. All of my annotations are still there. So when you transition and you move from one place to another, you're going to want to clear all the drawings, right? And then continue to move through your slideshow as necessary. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out with some really quick, easy functions. Another one that you should look at, you can actually do from here, let's say that the slide deck, we're done with the slide deck, but we want to talk through different things, or we want to show people how to do the work themselves. There's this feature right here called Whiteboard. And when I click on Whiteboard, now what shows in all of the student screens is that whiteboard. And those same functions that I used to annotate on the screen on the slide deck before are now here present for me again, and I can actually, you know, do all the same things that I was doing before, and it will show on the student screen. And again, if I don't like what I just did, I can undo. I can say, oh no, I didn't mean to get rid of that one, I want to redo that one, or I can clear everything. So the whole way throughout this, you can do this. If you allow it, you can actually, your students can annotate on your screen as well. Of course, this is dangerous, so this is something you want to decide if I do or do not want to allow people to do. All right, but those are some really simple functions. I'll be back very shortly with another video on how to do things like conduct polls and do breakout rooms. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you shortly.